down as well, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some statements to you, and then you'll see some signs. Unfortunately, they're not really right. But over here is disagree, and over here is agree. So if you feel like you agree with the statement I read, move over this way. If you really agree, go all the way over to the side. If you're like, no, that's definitely not me, go all the way over to the disagree side. Okay? Sound good? All right. Let's see, where should I start? With this. I wish food didn't cause weight gain. I think we have a unanimous decision there. Okay. I am shocked. I thought it was going to go the other way. All right. I'm new, right? Agree.
Wishes food didn't cause weight gain.
I wish food didn't cause weight gain. Okay. So I think we're clear. All right, let's see this. I like being active.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
That's it.
Wherever you feel comfortable. There we go. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, disagree over here.
Okay, agree is here.
This is disagree.
Oh, disagree.
This is disagree. Sorry.
We'll lead you the wrong way.
And so how was it this, because last week you talked about activity with Heather. How was it this week being active, since everyone here likes being active? Did you make any changes this week?
A little bit more, probably.
A little bit more? And what did you build into your routine?
I did a little more.
Nice. And some head nod there, other people agree with that. Anyone else have a different experience? Yeah.
Less active.
Less
I
active.
flew to Denver to visit my son and his family.
That's tough.
And they all work during the day. There wasn't much to do.
You're sitting in an airplane
Well,
too, isn't it?
no, Jeff, please, we wouldn't even go into that.
Fair enough. All right, next one. I like to cook. Yeah, if you don't agree, that's fine.
Disagree is over there?
Disagree is over there. Agree is over here. If you don't like to cook, you know, this wrong. Kind of in the middle. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Let's try this one a little bit different. Fall is my favorite time of year. Anyone is so cool.
Because I know what's coming after fall.
All right. Let's go back to some food ones. I was able to track every day over the last week.
You were able, I'm sorry, to do what?
Track every day over the past week.
Not in between. All right.
Not like way over up
wait,
in
that
fall,
would be
that
a
way.
We were eating lunch at 3:30, dinner at 8.
Some variety there.
Mexican.
Yeah, the food, the both of them. Yeah. All right, let's try. I was able to fit in some activity on most days over the last week. So some activity on most days.
Most days.
And that's the disagree and the agree. In the middle's fine, yeah. Cool. Let's try a couple more. Here's another one. Weight loss is hard. All right, everyone's agreeing on this. So do you feel like being in this program has changed that at all?
Yes.
How so?
Writing it down makes me more accountable for what I'm eating.
So writing it down helps, yeah?
Yes.
You watch more
Paying more attention, yeah?
Proactive.
I'm taking over half the insulin that I did when I started. More than half. I mean,
So I think that's a great point, right? That this is not just about weight loss. There's a lot of other great benefits that can come with changing how we eat. And you had one too?
Yes, I think we're all together.
yes.
Right, yeah, so definitely, right? This is hard. Lifestyle change is very hard, but having a group together to help support each other can be really, really beneficial. All right, how about this for the last one? I feel confident that I'll be able to achieve my goals in this program. So that might be weight loss, that might be.
Well, in 25 days, I lost 7 pounds.
This is awesome. Hey, you go where you feel comfortable.
No sleep.
So close it. And you're not completely to the wall, so there's a little bit of room
Not
there.
completely.
All right, well, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and take a seat and we can talk a little bit more about this, and then we'll jump into the next activity.
The gym and do things like that. I do not really get to know. I have my routine.
All right. So I'd like to hear from a few people about what did you kind of take away, or what did you notice during this activity?
We're all in the same boat.
All in the same boat? Yep, great.
Some of us don't look good.
Sound like you could, definitely.
I like to cook, but I don't cook very good.
Oh, I should have asked that one, right? That's a good question.
Groups are good for supportive, for change,
Absolutely.
lifestyle changes.
Absolutely, yeah. So groups
I
are
missed what
good.
you said, I'm sorry.
Just what did you kind of notice during that activity? What did you take away from?
I'm too busy. I'm getting home at like 8, 9 o'clock.
I know it's fun.
With the physical activity?
I don't know which kind.
Yeah, like I have a yoga class that doesn't end until 8, and then I'm eating before I go, and then I'm eating late.
Later. Trying to get to bed.
I go to bed, I'm going to go to McDonald's instead of something, 11 o'clock before you.
Yeah. So it's the whole time management piece, yeah. And that's, can anyone else relate to that?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, and that's the thing, like, we've been at this for 5, this is the 5th week now. This is a long haul change, right? You're not gonna shift things around, jumble your schedules, and figure it all out in 5 weeks. And if you get there by the end of the year, I think you should feel real good about that. But realistically, you're probably looking at 3 to 6 months for those changes to take place. And then you're looking at the rest of the program is to kind of get into a more solid routine so that it's something that you can stick with long term. I mean, it's absolutely, right? You start looking at tracking food, cutting down on calories, like those are complicated things. It's not as simple as just, oh, well, I'll do it. I mean, if that
I'm
was the
doing
case,
for harm
you would do it.
reduction. I'm doing Instead of a Big Mac, I'm doing a hamburger with no cheese.
Beautiful.
I'm doing harm reduction.
Harm reduction is the way to go. I think one of the things that I noticed as well is that you guys have a lot of similarities, and I think that's great because, like we said, right, the group support aspect of this can be so important, especially with how hard this is. So I'm going to shift gears. Does anyone have any issues with the pedometer?
I'm bringing mine back
Uh-huh.
because I kept breaking my thumbnails off with it, and it sometimes would open and sometimes wouldn't. And I got me a little $5 one at Walmart.
Okay. So you got one that works.
I got one that works.
Okay.
Okay, so I tried to get one and it didn't work.
Okay, so if you
It
have
didn't match up.
if you have one that's not working, we have extras, so make sure you check in with us before you leave today. We can try to get it going or give you a new one if you need it.
I
Okay?
seen the one at Walmart, this place is
Okay. So what I want to talk about today is tipping the calorie balance. So you have a handout and you're in little groups. So what I'm going to do is hand out a little trivia, and we're going to work through the trivia. So as a group, we'll work through the questions. I want you to work together to come up with what you think is the best answer, and we'll share that. And then through the trivia questions, we'll talk about some of the topics today related to tipping the calorie balance. Sound good? All right. Sarah, can you help?
Yep.
Yeah, I've done.
There we go.
2 sheets for each person.
Yeah.
Did everybody get a session packet for today? I know they were already on the tables. Okay, so we need 3 of them. Extra session This is the survey session. This is your packet for today.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to read through each question for everyone, and we'll give you some time to figure it out.
Do you guys have any extra session packets on the table? Oh, did he already give you these? Okay. Do you guys already get trivia? Yep. Okay.
I got them, yeah. All right. So we're going to start with some physical activity trivia. I'll read you, and you have these in front of you as well, some scenarios, and the goal is to identify what activity they might have been doing and to burn these number of calories, okay? So, number one, hi, my name is Larry. I'm 50 years old. I'm 6 foot 0 inches and 250 pounds. Last night, I burned 125 calories in 20 minutes doing what with my best animal friend?
Walking. Oh, you don't want us to say jogging.
Just as your group, just discuss it, and then you can just write down what you think the answer is, and then we'll go through them as well. All right, so let's go ahead to number two. Just make the best guess you can. We'll go through the answers afterwards as well. Hi, my name is I'm Freezing. I'm a 60-year-old male. I'm 5 foot 10 and 300 pounds. This morning I cranked out 207 calories just to make sure I could get to work doing this activity for 15 minutes. All right, we're ready for number three. So number three, hi, my name is Lori. I'm 50 years old. I'm 5 foot 5 and 200 pounds. Last night I sat down to watch my favorite show and burned 252 calories in 20 minutes of this activity. All right, let's move ahead to number four. Hi, my name is Rose. I'm 60 years old. I'm 5 foot 3 and 175 pounds. I love the spring because I can get outside and burn 215 calories doing 20 minutes of one of my favorite activities. All right, let's get the last one, then we'll go through and try to figure out, or I'll help tell you if any of them, what the right answers are. All right, so my name is Susie. I'm 50 years old. I'm 5 foot 5 and 200 pounds. I got up 20 minutes early this morning to do this around my neighborhood and burned 103 calories. All right, we ready? So number one, Larry. Any ideas what Larry was doing?
I said walking on the way.
Walking the dog. Yeah, so he's walking at a moderate pace on flat ground. So When we look at burning calories through exercise, there's a lot of factors that are going to affect how many calories you burn. So the size of your body, the bigger you are, the more energy it takes to move, so the more energy you're going to burn. And in simple terms, like calories are just energy. It's the fuel for the body, right? So when we look at weight loss, we're looking at burning and taking calories out. And there's two ways of doing that. One way is activity. And so this is one example of, well, Larry burned 125 walking with his dog throughout the neighborhood. Number two, I'm freezing was doing shoveling snow. He was. So he was shoveling snow for 15 minutes.
Getting ready.
Getting ready, yeah. What's that?
I said getting dressed.
Getting dressed. I don't know if you burned 207 calories getting dressed, but you could if you really got into it. So I went online and put in the statistics, and shoveling snow for 15 minutes would burn over 200 calories. So number two is shoveling snow. How about number three? Number three is a little tricky. A recumbent bike, so riding an exercise bike, so she's sitting there watching her show, riding that bike and burning 252 calories in those 20 minutes. So that's at a fairly intense level for those 20 minutes. And how about Rose? 215. She was gardening, yeah, so gardening, and again, when we talk about gardening or any activity, there's a lot of variables. So if you're sitting in a chair pruning your rose bush, you're probably not going to burn 215 calories, but if you're hauling leaves around and working and sweating, you're going to burn quite a bit more calories. So we're talking about somewhat vigorous gardening. Hi, it's Susie, and she burned 103 calories in 20 minutes.
She jogging?
She was walking. Walking. Yep. So walking. The jogging would just be a little bit more on the calorie burn. So walking, moderate, level ground. So when you look at these, what do you notice? What do you kind of see from the different people?
Movement.
Activity, movement.
Missing television.
They're missing not the one girl.
Oh, that's right.
She's awesome. One thing to note is just the difference you'll see in the calories burned based on the different body types as well as the activity they're doing. So that's important to keep in mind when you're doing the activities, that each one's going to burn a slightly different amount. All right, so we've touched on one aspect of the calorie balance. And so when I say taking the calorie balance, what I'm talking about is on one end, right, we have the intake, right, which is just food, really. It's all we can get energy from. And then on the other side, we have exercise, and then we have what our body takes to stay alive. So we'll get into the second aspect of that, which is the intake of energy or food next. So I have 3 questions for you, and we're going to try to identify what the food is in each of these. All right? So I add the perfect crunch to a turkey sandwich, but a 1 ounce, a small bag of meat also adds 160 calories.
Chips.
I'll tell you the answer, but not right now. I say that's a good guess, though. All right. The second one's pretty tough. Actually, the last 2 are kind of hard, so I apologize for that. Yum. Breakfast is the best. People come from all over the world to enjoy my friend and me. It's a true American breakfast duo. 206 calories of pure joy. All right, these are hard. I'm going to get to the last one so we can go through them. My girl Wendy whips me up for a healthier lunch option. 380 calories and packed with 36 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, and 13 grams of fat.
Who's this?
Wendy. All right, so any guesses on the first one? The perfect crunch. It was Lay's potato chips, so a small bag of Lay's would be 160 calories. Number 2, any guesses on number 2? The breakfast.
Bacon and eggs.
Very, very close. Bacon
I'd say
eggs, not bad.
pancakes and syrup.
It's actually pancakes and syrup from IHOP. So an IHOP pancake and syrup would be 206 calories. I took that from it's in the calorie book as well that you guys have. Yes. It's just one pancake.
One small pancake.
One small pancake, and I think it's a tablespoon of maple syrup in that. So 206 calories. No, thank you. Good choice. How about number 3, Wendy with the healthier lunch option?
We thought chili.
Chili. That's a really good guess.
Is that?
That's probably actually very close. So what it was Wendy's Asian chicken cashew salad. It was quite interesting. I took it just from their
I think the
website.
whipping it up kind of.
Yeah.
Whip up a salad.
Smoothie or something.
That's good, that's good. You guys are more clever than I am. I didn't think of it that way. So what do we kind of notice going through these 3 food options, especially comparing them with the exercise? Think about the tipping of the scale.
There are a lot healthier options than pancakes and syrup.
That's the truth, right?
Well, and you think salads are healthy, but they're not
A lot of
necessarily.
times they're not.
Very true. You can get caught up with like just a little bit of dressing can add a whole lot of heft to that salad, right? I think the other thing to keep in mind is like if we look at a lunch, right? We need to say we always have a sandwich with just our one little small bag of Lay's. The Lay's is equivalent to, let's see, who do we have up here? If we even, I'm freezing, burning 207 calories, right? It's almost the same as that one bag of potato chips. So in shoveling snow for 15 minutes that's a pretty good workout. So when you look at that, right, you have like one little bag of chips to the exercise. So when you start looking at tipping the balance, it's really important to look at both sides. Because if you're just going to tackle it with exercise, you're unlikely to lose weight. You need to look at the exercise plus what's coming in the other side. So lightening up the food, exercising, being a little bit more active, and then you can start tipping it over and seeing some weight loss. Any questions so far? Is this okay, fun? A little fun? Yeah? All right, cool. Okay, the last round, I was told, was hard. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I'll give you a hint. Some of the information is in the handout you already got. Okay? All right. People often add me for extra flavor to foods. But look out, I pack a calorically heavy punch at 9 calories per gram. Let me ask a question, dude. Do you want to quickly guess and then go through the answers right away, or go through the answers? Yeah? So yes,
Fat.
it's fat. Yep. So fat has the most calories per gram of food. It's at 9 calories per gram. So fat isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's going to add calories very quickly to your food. The benefits of fat are that it does help you feel full, but you just have to be very careful with how much of it and how often you're eating the fat. Right? All right, number 2. My buddy and me are pretty mediocre. We each pack 4 calories per gram in our foods. There's 2 answers.
Starches and sugars.
Those are both the same thing, but that's one half of the answer.
Protein.
Protein. So protein and carbohydrates, which consist of starches and sugars, each contain 4 calories per gram. So they're not going to be as heavy as fat. Sorry. So per gram, a gram of fat is going to have over double the amount of calories in proteins and carbohydrates. So when you're looking at creating a more balanced meal, make sure that you have carbohydrates and proteins and not just fat, and you're going to be able to get more food on your plate with fewer calories.
It seems counterintuitive to what everything is being said on TV and in the news, and that carbohydrates are turn into simple sugars, and then that affects on the weight, and so you're kind of
It's a very good question.
confusing me there.
Okay. So you're absolutely right. So when you look at, say, that breakfast, right, the IHOP breakfast, that breakfast is going to be maybe 95% carbohydrate, right? Maybe more than that. Maybe has a little bit of fat. fat and protein. So that breakfast is pure carbohydrates, and when that hits your body's turning that straight into sugars, right? And that could be a problem, especially if you have diabetes, if your body has trouble dealing with all those sugars. So, and this kind of gets to something I wanted to hit on later, but this is a great time to talk about. No, beautiful. Because this is only one part of a healthy lifestyle, right? Is looking at calories. Balance is probably more important. So that breakfast is not balanced. It's all carbohydrates, and carbohydrates are.
Which is great if I'm gonna go run a 5K.
Yeah, 5
But I'm
minutes. You're not. Yeah, exactly. So when you look at your carbohydrates, they're all going to have 4 calories per gram, but you can get more quality from those 4 calories than, say, that IHOP breakfast. Like if you had some fruit salad, much better. You had a salad, even better. So it's always important to look at it in that way as well. Like 4 calories is not necessarily equal in terms of health, right?
Right.
And when we look at that, we really want to be monitoring our sugars and how much of those we're getting in terms of the total amount of carbohydrates we eat in a day. Does that help answer? Does that make more sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
You can disagree.
No,
Please do if you disagree,
It's-
because I think it's important to talk about. I mean, you're definitely not going to be the only one thinking that.
it's just very different. You know, Atkins is no carbs.
Yeah.
Which is a scary diet, because that's too far. Right, it's too far.
Yeah.
But it's just the balance. But when you talk about carbohydrates and that it's a better choice than fats, but it's still not the best choice.
So when I say,
Like-
yep. So better choice, it's a better choice in the sense of how many calories you're getting. And I don't know that better is the right word in that sense. Yeah,
It's less fat.
Well, not necessarily as bad, it just has less calories. I don't know that we need to judge that. That carbohydrates have less calories than fat, and that's a fact, right? So we don't need then to go, just eat carbohydrates and protein, right? Because that's not going to be balanced either. And all the nutrients kind of work together in our body to help give us the energy we need every day. And I think we're getting to one, yes, the next one. So the next one's actually really important, and it fits in with what we're talking about. So I'm an important part of your diet. I help move things along and feel full. And did I mention that I am usually calorie-free? Fiber, right? So that breakfast, IHOP, syrup, it's got 0 grams of fiber is my guess. And even if you got some sort of whole wheat pancake, maybe 2 or 3 grams, so not a lot of fiber. So that's again, right, when you're looking at things in this picture, you gotta look at a lot of different factors. And then eating your salad, your fruit salad, your berries, you're gonna start getting a lot of fiber with that breakfast as well. Fiber isn't absorbed, so it's not gonna give you those calories, so it can help with that. It also takes up room in the belly, which helps you feel full. So there's a lot of great benefits of fiber in terms of tipping the scale in the weight loss direction. Any questions so far? Yeah.
Sure, like grits.
So generally speaking, the more processed the cereals are, the less fiber, because as they process it, they remove it. So if it's a whole grain cereal, it will have some more fiber in it. When you look at the nutritional label, they're all going to have the fiber amount down there, so you can go down and look. And if it's got 4 or 5 grams per serving, that's all.
What is grits anyway? I mean, I know.
It's corn.
Okay,
So
so
they'll
then you're
probably have a
getting.
decent amount, but corn also has a lot of sugar in
Sugar.
it, right, as well. So
That's almond.
Well, that's pure, that's
it's
sugar.
It's tough. Yeah, this isn't easy stuff.
But then you have cream of wheat and oatmeal that are semi-processed in hot cereals too, and they would be a little better, probably cream of wheat and then oatmeal the best, huh?
Oatmeal, yeah, and then interestingly enough, like oatmeal, like there's rolled oats, there's
Yeah,
quick,
what are
like
the differences?
instant oats,
Yeah.
there's steel cut oats, and then you can actually buy like the oat, right? Which would
Right.
be like the least processed thing in the world. And that's packed with fiber. Steel cut has a little bit more than rolled, and rolled has more than instant, right? So it's kind of the more easy it is to prepare, the less fiber, because the more they've taken out of it. So it's honestly between steel cut and rolled, I don't think it's a huge fiber difference. I think it's 1 gram per serving, so it's not generally, there's not a huge gap there. But between rolled and steel cut and instant, there's going to be a pretty big gap.
Yeah, you get what you got. I don't have to look on my hand on it. So
You like oats?
yeah, and that's why I get the old man.
They'll roll, yeah.
Steel cut has more carbs than regular old fashioned oat, right?
Maybe a little bit. I'd have to look it up. But it's possible because it's a little bit more dense that per serving you're actually going to get more food and more carbohydrate. Yeah. Good questions.
What about cream of wheat?
Cream of wheat, I'd have to look at the nutritional label, but my guess is it's a little bit more processed, so it's going to be denser in carbohydrates and probably less fiber than, say, oatmeal. Yeah. All right. People say I'm the life of the party. This is on page 2. And I don't like to brag, but people usually have a good time when I'm around. But look out, I'm packed with 7 calories per gram. Bingo! So alcohol can be sneaky. It can really sneak up there. It's a lot more calories than carbohydrates. And protein is almost the same number as fat. The difference being it's not, unlike fat, it's not going to help you fill up. It usually limits our inhibition, so we're going to eat more food. So it can be really sneaky in many ways. And like a typical drink, whether it's a beer or a shot, is going to have over 100 calories as well. So if we think back to the exercise portion, right, you have to go walk for 20 minutes to burn off that one drink you had. And if it's a sugary drink, well, you know the calories go up even faster. Any questions on that? All right, let's move on to number 5. So to calculate our daily calorie burn, we add our resting calorie burn rate to the number of calories burned. This one's tough. So remember we were talking about the balance, right? So the one side is the food we eat, and the other side was activity. There we go. So activity and then our base rate, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So for that one, it's the amount of calories burned just to stay alive plus the activity of life, whether that be, and that's not just exercise, that's breathing, that's powering your heart, it's just walking around to do activities of daily life. So all those get added together. All right. I kind of gave away the number 6, but we'll go through it anyway. Our resting calorie burn rate determines the amount of calories needed to stay alive. Stay alive, yep. All right, this last one is a good one. We'll spend a little time on this. A pound of fat contains blank calories of energy. What was it? 3,500. So the 9 is how many calories are in a gram of fat. So in a pound, there's 3,500. So we start looking at that and tipping the scale, right? So the body is very smart. It wants to actually store fat, right? Because it's beneficial for our survival if we were to hit a famine, which in this day and age is very unlikely. But